want to get online. I need a computer.
What's up, guys? Singularityhacker here. And I want to talk to you today about Defi, Decentralized Finance. Now, if you've heard about Bitcoin and blockchain and crypto and get-rich-quick schemes and all this stuff, this is not that. This is not about pump and dump, any of these other things. But I'm compelled to make this video in this post we're going to talk about here in a minute that I posted last week, because I've been following bleeding edge technology for 10 years. Not a real long time, but some time, right? That's been my entire kind of shtick, is like, what is the bleeding edge in this particular sector? And I'll say this, the last 60 days have had me at the very edge of my seat, literally experiencing future shock as far as how quickly things are moving. Things are moving so fast that as an ex-developer, as someone who works in technology and software delivery every day and who reads up on these things, this stuff is flying past me at the speed of light, and it's like Star Wars, Warp 9. You see the light from the stars slide back. And the impact of this is not a new library, even per se a new technology. In combination with what's happening on a global scale to the economy and to nations, I think the year 2020 is actually going to seem somewhat uneventful compared to what's unfolding in 2021. Okay, if that sounds dramatic, it's intended to be so. And we'll see why here in just a minute. So this is the post I posted last week, the revolution of economy 3.0. I debated. I thought the revolution that is economy 3.0, DeFi, economy 3.0. Unfortunately, economy 2.0 was hijacked by some traditional, a lot of articles talking about a circular economy or something. So I had to go with the 3.0. It is what it is. This artwork really meant to try to communicate the composability of this. And if you know what DeFi is and whatnot, you understand what we're talking about composability. But before all that, let's jump right in here. I'm going to step through this, and in as short as time as I possibly can, I want to leave you with a sense of urgency, a sense of opportunity, and preparedness, if it's even possible, right, to see what's unfolding right now. So to kick off, right, I'll just read this first paragraph here. It says there's a global revolution happening right now, and it's happening so fast that unless you're explicitly told about it, it will likely remain entirely invisible to you. The only inklings that we have that something is happening are increased headlines mentioning Bitcoin and more stimulus packages. Mind you, this revolution didn't start this year, and it didn't even start last year, but it's at a tipping point. And in the past 3 months, it has accelerated so quickly that I'm 100% that world leaders have no idea that we're all standing on a fault line, and the earth is shaking, and the earthquake Richter scale 9, the whole earth is about to open up. Okay. Now, the global revolution I speak of concerns the very nature and mechanics of the worldwide economy. This revolution is being fueled by digital assets, programmable money, and distributed autonomous organizations. I'm telling you, you're going to see this in a minute. Those who've been in the scene for a while, we've been talking about DAOs, DAOs for a while, and we're actually seeing that the real fruit and the impact of that is happening right now. What we're witnessing unfold before our very eyes is nothing less than the complete reimagining of human organization, industry, and trade. What we're witnessing is the birth of economy 3.0. So to provide a little context here, this didn't just happen, all right? In order to kind of see where we're at, we've been accelerating for a long time, and then like most exponential curves, it seems slow at first, and as it accelerates, it seems like it's a little bit faster, but before it gets past this is a little speeding up, it's the hold on to your britches point. There's this tipping point, and that's a good example. We're good, a little off balance, to we're falling. And if we can look back and see what this acceleration line was, you can see very clearly, and it's not a surprise at all, where we're at, but it does give an indication on where we're going to be by the end of the year, before most nations are even coming out and laying out supposed regulation on how they're going to make rules on crypto. Okay, so at the macro scale, this revolution was inevitable if the trend line of human industry is traced. Basically, what I do here is I say, hey, if you look at old companies like Harley Davidson, Prada, Whirlpool, they took almost a century to reach billion-dollar valuation. Then we get into more modern companies like Mattel, Nike, Starbucks. They did it in a quarter of the time. And then you get to like internet companies like Evernote and PayPal, and they do it in less than 10 years. And then you get to kind of more pure digital companies that don't necessarily interface with the older way of things, like a Pinterest, Instagram, YouTube, right? They're not kind of building out on older systems. It's totally new, and anyone can log in and create digital content and consume it and produce it. And those companies reach billion-dollar valuation in less than 2 years. So you see the time is getting shorter, right? Then we get up, and this is the shortest one I could find. Jet.com, a shopping website, reached its billion-dollar valuation in 4 months because of its unique pricing algorithm. Now, if you look all along the same type, if you don't have an eye for the new companies and you say, okay, that's the fastest one, but here's the deal. You have to take into account the new purely blockchain companies, pure blockchain companies. And if you do that, then this trend continues, and you end up seeing times like Banker, 153 million raised in 3 hours. Aragon, 25 million, 15 minutes. Gnosis, 12 million, 10 minutes. SingularityNet, 36 million, 60 seconds. Brave, 35 million, raised in 30 seconds. And check this out, guys. There's some links on here if you want to look. Here's a traditional kind of standard timed evaluation for older companies, and then took these from basically this article. This article's from 2017. As far as the fastest growing, from the ICOs in 2017. This doesn't even take into account what's happened like last year with these exchanges that have hundreds of millions locked in value in 3 hours. It's crazy, right? So that's the trend line. So if you look at the historical trend line, you can see, okay, I see what's going on here. This is consistent with the trend line if you have the eyes to see it. So once we see that big picture, now let's go and take a look at the genesis. How did this all start? Because this didn't start in 2009 with Satoshi Nakamoto, Bitcoin, and all this stuff. This started back in some ways with the digitization of the stock market. Now, the rule here that's significant is this: is that as soon as anything becomes digital and programmatic, it will begin to accelerate in its development at exponential speeds. This is Ray Kurzweil's, law of accelerated returns, right? And he points to any science or any domain of knowledge, as soon as it becomes digital science, as soon as it's consumed by computer science, it creates a feedback loop and its growth explodes. It's in every area, right? Ray Kurzweil, he gets in, he talks about even like genome sequencing and these things. As soon as it becomes within the domain of computer science, put on your seatbelts, right? And so when we think about this explosion of finance and coordination like we're talking about, then we really see that this kind of started in 1987. In 1987, the world had its first electronic stock exchange, the Nasdaq terminal. Traders could type orders directly into a computer, but this guy named Thomas Peterfy, I think that's how you say his name, didn't want to type in the orders, so he and his engineers hacked into the Nasdaq terminal such that it could be wired directly to their own computer, which traded automatically based on algorithms. This was totally new, right? Well, a senior Nasdaq official saw the setup and told him he's breaking the rules. All orders have to be entered through the keyboard, he said. And he gave Peterfy's group 1 week to fix the problem. This is another recurring theme that we're going to see over and over again, and I've kind of written about this in a lot of over and over again for several years, is that you can't stop the singularity. We are converging on something the likes of which no group of people can sit around a table and say, we're going to make rules against that. Because there's no rules against pure mathematics. And when you do make rules, you're wasting your words, your paper, and your ink. You can't stop it. And really what software is executable pure mathematics. Okay? You can't stop it. It will grow. And so here we'll see this theme play out, right? So Peterfy and his engineers came up with a solution. They built a mechanical robot with rubber fingers that typed entries into the keyboard. It's reported that the inspector stormed out of the room upon seeing the hulking machine, but it technically satisfied the rules. Traders said that on active trading days, the robot typed so fast that it sounded like a machine gun. And this Peterfy guy became the father of digital trading. And this in turn paved the way for algorithmic and high frequency trading. And if you look at any charts for trades made by humans and trades made by M2M, machine to machine, you see basically this birth of kind of machines being let loose on the stock market as far as trading. And as it goes, so quickly it becomes most all trades are done algorithm to algorithm. The machines competing against machines, and to create liquidity and arbitrage and to grab opportunity. It's an arms race of computer science. So that gave rise to all algorithmic trading, high frequency trading. Now that was the first step, but that changed in 2009. Okay, so not a lot of time. 1987, 2009, and we're going to see this loop is getting even shorter for the next iteration, right? So we got digital currency with Bitcoin or digital scarcity, and this is something a lot of people miss. In fact, it's almost wasting your breath for someone. It's a pyramid scam and all this. It's like if you don't get it, you don't get it, but I'm Gary V last week. He posted a video where someone asked him about blockchain, and he said, if you truly understand what blockchain means, then you are talking about World War III dynamics, and that's the truth. Okay, so the fundamental innovation that occurred with the invention of Bitcoin was the invention of digital scarcity. That's all it is. Forget currency, forget this, forget that. It's digital scarcity. Digital scarcity is the minimum viable characteristic to a currency. But a currency is not completely defined by digital scarcity. The thing that's happening right now with NFTs and all, those aren't currency, but they do represent digital scarcity. The very notion that I could have something digital and send some of it to you such that my supply is reduced is so entirely novel and unthinkable that the vast majority of the world doesn't even realize that such a thing exists. The fact that I can send you something digital that I no longer have then, and it's not just a copy, it's not replicative, okay? Now, the world is only in the past few months waking up to the reality of cryptocurrency, while the actual crypto ecosystem is moved way beyond that. There's this quote, Milton Friedman here. He got the Nobel Prize for economics, and he basically said, the internet is had the enormous effect on personal liberty, and he kind of prophetically said the one thing that's missing that will soon be developed is a reliable e-cash, a method whereby on the internet you can transfer funds from me to you without me or you knowing each other or needing anyone else. Okay. This thing, what's happening is hit such a tipping point. Just in the past weeks, we have politicians, big tech, banks, credit cards, stock exchanges feverishly jumping on the bandwagon of Bitcoin, which in some ways is the Model T of digital scarcity. And I don't say that in a derisive way, but we're not even talking about smart contracts and decentralized exchanges, right? We're just talking, this is a basic store of value, Bitcoin, okay? All the publicity and institutional investments have driven the price of Bitcoin up. It went crazy. People losing their minds about what's happening. But it's really nothing compared to what's happening at the bleeding edge of this new 3.0 economy. So the excitement right now is palpable. Willy Woo, Twitter tokenomics guy says, in terms of adoption, Bitcoin has roughly the same users as the internet had in 1997. The big ones are growing faster. Next 4 years on the current path will bring Bitcoin users to 1 billion. That's the equivalent of 2005 for the internet. So all that to say, let's get into what is this economy 3.0, right? And I'm using that term to refer to decentralized finance. So the idea is that if you can use digital scarcity to transact value, Bitcoin, like send you something of value and you can send to me and we don't need an intermediary. Decentralized finance is basically smart contracts. So whereas the digitization of the stock market was a digitization of a record of ownership, this is and then machines coming on being introduced to the stock market to do this algorithmic trading. Now we basically have a new stock market native on the internet, and all of the transactions are effectively machine to machine. I mean, that's what we're getting, right? It's one person can barely keep track of the proliferation of new competing and complementary decentralized finance protocols. And far from losing steam, Ethereum, which is number one, is the most active of the blockchains being used. And in the next few weeks, an update is coming out to hit Ethereum, which dramatically impacts gas prices. Gas prices is what you pay in order to make a transaction. That's the model, right? So like on the old model, like Amazon, you put your code on there, you pay them to have your code sitting in the cloud and for it to run. And with this decentralized model, right, you have your code, it's out there kind of on a substrate. And when you want to have a transaction occur, then some gas fee is paid. And so that gas fee is about ready to drop from something like $50, $60 a transaction to maybe 20 or less. And then even before the end of the year, that's going to come down to almost nothing. What that means is even more activity. Look at the chart here on what's happened and how fast this is happening, right? This is basically $1 billion in less than a year. We're shooting $40 billion plus. Okay, this is not institutional investments. This is not marketing. This is just the ingenuity and free trade of human beings being unleashed, superpowered by algorithms. Now, the wildness of this is that, you know, when you tell somebody about decentralized finance and what happened, they say, well, they're going to shut that down. It's entire generations. All that we've ever known is the idea of getting permission from a government. And the entire thing is about to be turned on its head. Because here's the deal. There is no way to shut this down. This isn't, you know, the government couldn't hardly even shut down Pirate Bay. Okay, file sharing. But with this, it is designed intrinsically from the start to be decentralized. Hence the anonymity. The anonymity. It's almost like in some ways the cancel culture is working in the favor of this decentralization, because privacy, you want your privacy, otherwise you know, you get canceled. Maybe a view you had 20 years ago, you're canceled, you lose your job, lose everything. Or, you know, basically get government telling you what you can and can't do with your funds. They're not going to keep track with innovation. I think Africa or Uganda, someplace like a few weeks ago, they passed a law basically saying, hey, no more, you know, no more exchanges. I think it was Binance launched a DEX, a decentralized exchange, like 2 days later. I mean, these exchanges, you're going there anonymously, no account, no one holding your funds, no asking questions, and you're exchanging and interacting, borrowing, lending, investing. This is being unleashed on the world's unbanked. And at the same time that the government and world superpowers are printing money till the wheels fall off. So the timeline of, like, for instance, the UK government saying it's going to release rules for how cryptocurrencies will be governed in 2022, that might as well be 20 years in DeFi time. Might as well be 20 years. The genie's out the bottle. There's no going back. Now, I highly recommend this book, The Sovereign Individual, Mastering the Transition to the Information Age. What's unbelievable is if you read this book, you'll think it was written now. But in fact, this was written before, many years ago, when before a lot of this stuff was happening, and it calls the shots on exactly how things play out to such a degree. I mean, these guys are basically sound prophetic, you know. So yeah, check out this book, The Sovereign Individual. Basically talks about how microprocessors are gonna flip the whole nation states on its head. And we're entering into a whole new epoch. That's all I got this time. I hope you enjoyed. This is my first YouTube video. I'm going to try to do some more like this and get into a cadence of delivery in this way. And I'll see you around.